What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Sunday Night Fantasy Recap presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my co-hosts, Josh and John Luke. How are you guys doing today?
Doing fantastic. How are you doing, Simon?
It's been an awesome day of football. You know, I missed last week, but 2 weeks ago when we were on, I feel like we complained about the 1 p.m. games being boring over and over again, and then the 4 p.m. games are great. Today, when those 1 p.m. games were ending, I didn't want to take my eyes off the screen. There were so many good endings for those 1 p.m. games, and the 4 p.m. games have been fun too. It's been a really good Sunday of football, and I'm excited to break down some of these games for you. Before we jump into any of that, though, for everybody watching this right here, right now, if you're watching, you are obviously already on the FanDuel Twitch or YouTube channels. FanDuel is putting out awesome fantasy content across all sports, not just football, baseball, golf, whatever you guys want. I'm sure there's content coming out for it. So make sure you go ahead and hit that follow button, subscribe button. Find them on Twitter, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, FanDuel on all of those platforms, and follow them. There are a lot of awesome content creators putting out great content. And we're here every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time breaking down the games. And you don't want to miss that. I was propping up everyone else, but you know what? We're here every Sunday too. You don't want to miss
the stars of the show.
Sorry, JJ. It's us now, guys. I know I talked about all the football that's already happened, but we have a game tonight that I don't know if you're aware, but Tom Brady is going back to New England. I guess he played there before or something. All these commercials are kind of making a big deal out of it. So we've got this big Tampa Bay versus New England game. The return of Tom Brady to Gillette to take on Bill Belichick, his former coach. This is the first time he's playing in that stadium since he's left. And there's been some very relevant fantasy pieces on the Buccaneers side of this ball and some sneaky options on the Patriots side that we need to talk a little bit about tonight before we go into this game. The first thing I want to lead with, it's listed down here that Rob Gronkowski is a game time decision. As far as we know, everything we've seen, he's out. He's not playing. So get Rob Gronkowski out of your lineups. That is disappointing that he's not going to be there for the game against New England with Tom Brady. Like, that would have been awesome, but you're just going to have to put him on your bench for the time being. Outside of that, though, the other receiving options for the Buccaneers are all good to go. With Rob Gronkowski being out, guys, do you expect one of the other tight ends, maybe O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, to have a big game, or do you think this funnels into the other receiving options they have there? Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin. Because Gronk's been a red zone monster this season.
Antonio Brown game all day, guys. This is going to be Antonio Brown's going to have a good game tonight. I'm pretty confident in that, especially with Gronk being out. Chris Godwin, he plays in that slot position, so he's got a lot of over the middle of the field plays that's going to open up for him. So we were expecting Chris Godwin to have a great game, but I think you can raise that ceiling just a little bit more and that floor. So I'm very excited to start both Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin tonight.
Yep. And honestly, I'm not benching any of these receiving options for the Buccaneers in season long. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. But Josh, for like this single slate for tonight, the single game slate, Antonio Brown is the receiver that you're wanting to throw into your lineup, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I think he's going to pay off the value for spending for him.
Yeah, I'm curious. I wish I had his value pulled up right here.
And maybe it's worth taking a shot on O.J. Howard too. He's got a ton of talent, and I could absolutely see him having a great game, getting a touchdown, few catches. That could pay.
Out of the tight ends on that team, I would probably take a flyer on Cameron Brate over O.J. Howard just because of the targets that we saw last week. He got 5 targets, 4 receptions on those targets. He didn't do much with it, but I feel like he could just be have like one of those sneaky roles in this game.
Yeah, Jail, I was going to say the same thing. I don't hate the O.J. Howard take, Josh, but if I was taking a shot in one of these lineups, I would be throwing Cameron Brate into my lineup. I've just seen him more involved in the offense more times, so I feel more comfortable. But you won't find a bigger O.J. Howard believer than me. I love the dude's talent, but for tonight, I'm leaning Brate. What makes you lean Howard over Brate?
It's the upside. He's a much better athlete, and he's much more. I think he has so much more potential to get a long touchdown, even a short touchdown. Cameron Brate probably will end up with more targets, but I don't know if that's going to win you a slate in DFS.
That's fair.
I get what you're saying. You're saying Cameron Brate, we're probably hoping on him falling into the end zone on a 1 or 2 yard touchdown, one of these red zone targets.
Higher floor for Brate, higher floor, lower ceiling in my mind.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I've got their salaries pulled up now if you guys want to take a look at what those two cost.
Why not? Let's get in there.
OJ Howard is currently at 6,500 and Cameron Braid is at 7,000 priced on FanDuel. Now that being said, I just want to bring up the Patriots are the best defense against tight ends so far this season. So even though Gronk is out with these two tight ends, you can take your shot on one of them, but you are going up against a good tight end defense. And then the receivers for Tampa Bay, we were talking about the value of Antonio Brown. Chris Godwin is priced at 14,000, Mike Evans at 13,000, and then you've got Antonio Brown all the way down there at 10,000, significantly lower. And I think there's a very, very real non-zero chance that he's the highest scoring fantasy receiver on this team today. Like, I'm not guaranteeing it, but that's the kind of value I'm taking in this game is him priced 4,000 below Chris Godwin, Chris Godwin 4,000 below. That's what I'll take. On the guys, we've talked about the Bucs side of the ball quite a bit now over here. We need to talk about the Patriots side of the ball a little bit. Are there any pieces you are excited about in this game tonight from the Patriots side? Mac Jones, you feeling good about starting Mac Jones?
Nope.
The running backs there. I mean, James White is out, so the receiving work has to go somewhere. Are you starting Damian Harris?
I'm starting him, but I don't want to play him in like a DFS slate. You know, I don't expect a ton of upside. What do you think, Jay?
I feel the same exact way. I think the only player that I might feel comfortable throwing in there, taking a shot on, is Jacoby Myers, honestly.
And Simon, do you still have those prices up?
Yep, I do. And just so you guys know, for everyone watching, if you have not played the single slate format on FanDuel before, how this works is you're selecting 5 any flex players with 1 MVP. So it can be across any positions. We're talking about these running backs. None of us have been very excited about any of them so far. So we would likely not put any running backs in our starting lineup for tonight. Maybe sneak a Damian Harris or a Leonard Fournette in there, but you're not required to. And JL, you said Jacoby Myers. So of the wide receivers on the Patriots, between Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, let's throw the tight ends in there as well. Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry. You're most excited about Jacoby Myers tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen the targets go his way just through weeks 1 through 3. We had nine targets, 6 targets, 14 targets, which I believe is the best on the team here in terms of target share.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I haven't betted that. Nelson Aguilar is definitely a solid like wide receiver 2 type flex play, but I don't think I'm going to play him in a DFS slate. Not against that Tampa Bay defense.
I don't know what receiver I want. And JL, you bring up a good point. I don't know what receiver I want, but I want a receiver or 2 from this New England offense in any DFS lineup that I'm putting out today. This Tampa Bay defense so far, while they were like vaunted as this great D and they've been unbelievable against the run, they have been absolutely shredded in the passing game so far, and I expect that to continue tonight. Some of these receivers are going to find real value as the running game from New England gets absolutely blocked tonight. They're going to have to go through the air. I like your Jacoby Myers call, but I think Nelson Aguilar is that home run play you can throw in there. He gets a long bomb, you're good to go for the whole night. I love the New England receiving options in this game. I think they're all a little bit underrated because the matchup is a deceivingly good one in my eyes. Josh, are you starting Jacoby Myers out of these receiving options?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to depend on cost if we're talking about FanDuel slate. But yeah, Jacoby Myers is by far and away the best receiving option in my mind. Nelson Aguilar, he always has a chance for, maybe a deep pass that he completes for a touchdown that, makes your game. But so I'm probably willing to throw Nelson Aguilar out there just because I assume he's significantly cheaper than Jacoby Myers.
It's Jacoby Myers is at 11.5.
Mm-hmm.
Nelson Aguilar's at 10. Kendrick Bourne's at 9.5.
Yeah. So
it
might be like a case of like just the cheapest option you're rolling with. But Jacoby Myers has looked really good. He hasn't scored a touchdown in his career. I'm sure a lot of people have heard that. But he has over 100 catches, no touchdowns. I believe he has 2 passing touchdowns. Who would have guessed?
Interesting stat line.
That is
so maybe he's due for some positive regression in the touchdown category.
Well, and those it's not the $4,000 difference we saw when talking Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown. Like, don't get me wrong, 1,500 is still a pretty big difference. But if you have faith in Jacoby Myers, it's not that big of a trade-off in value throwing him in your lineup if you think he's the guy tonight. Guys, we got some people in the chat. Anthony here talking with us. How you doing, Anthony? JL, Josh, and Simon, what's up? We are better now that you're here, my man. Glad to have you. Maria said, let's recap. We're getting there. Next, we will recap so hard after we're done with this preview. And Maria said, cool mug, Jeff. I think she's talking about your face, not your actual mug.
Yeah, bro.
You got nice
Sweet
mug.
face, bro.
Also, we got FanDuel in here with a reminder for everyone. You got a fantasy question, go ahead and hit it in the chat, and we will gladly answer anything you got. Some emergency start sits. You got some questions about the Raiders game tomorrow, just let us know. Sorry, Raiders-Chargers game. I don't want to disrespect any Chargers fans out there. We got Anthony here again. Said, I think you figured it out. Simon is in a rental and can't put holes in the walls to hang his frames.
That's it.
No, I am not.
That's it.
My girlfriend owns the house I live in. She is a boss woman, homeowner, and I can put holes in the wall. I just don't. They did belong on the floor, Anthony. That's where the jerseys go. Tim said, I really want this game to be won on the legs of Brady. Like Billy B perfectly schemes against everything except for Brady mobility. That would be hilarious. Awesome. And Anthony said, Josh's mug is bigger than Simon's cowboy hat. Maybe. We can test that later. You know what? We'll see if the cowboy hat gets whipped out. And Anthony said, Jacoby. Yep, we all agree about Jacoby. Maria said, excited to talk about Saquon's day. Yes, we will get there for sure. And NBA said, what up, beautiful folks of FYF? Glad to have you in here, NBA. Hope your fantasy week went pretty well so far. Still some games left. And Anthony, we're going to talk about this too.
Debo got another touchdown. I didn't want to bring it up during the preview because it's a different game. But
oh my God, he's going off.
Touchdown.
He's trying to compete with Tyreek Hill today. Let's go.
Also, NBA saying 49ers look washed. Very disappointing team. Shanahan is not an elite coach anymore. 2 years in the bottom barrel in the NFC West division. We'll talk a little bit more about the 39ers. The 39ers. The 39ers, as they're known now. We'll talk more about the.
Just real fast on this game, Tampa Bay is a 6.5 point favorite on the FanDuel Sportsbook. And, I have trouble betting against Tampa Bay in this one. I think they're going to beat the Patriots semi-handily in my mind.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it'll be that close.
FanDueling with FYF. Bring it. I agree. We're going to bring it. If you guys are ready, I say we go ahead and jump into our recaps of this week's games. And then that's it, actually. I didn't know what I was going to say was next. We'll wait for this to load up over here. The Falcons-Washington football team game is the first game we're going to talk about today, guys. This was a fun game to watch. This was so much fun. Terry McLaurin came out and just absolutely looked like the monster that we know he is. Cordaro Patterson had himself another great game. Taylor Heineke looked great at times. I feel like there's a lot of storylines going on in this game. Kyle Pitts had a decent game, put together a couple catches. It was, again, I guess, a little bit disappointing if you were expecting the superstar Kyle Pitts, but just from a tight end perspective, it was decent. And Atlanta lost. They are now they lost again this week to the Washington football team. What did you guys think about this game as a whole? Do you think this Washington football team is turning things around with Heineke at center, or do you think this was just them beating a bad Falcons team?
Heineke looked really good. Yeah, Heineke looked really good. I don't know if they're turning things around. It's an Atlanta Falcons team, like you mentioned, that is not great. They really, both these teams need to figure a lot of things out before we could say things have turned around for either one of them. I'm nervous about everyone. We expected the Washington defense to be so dominant, and they just haven't been. So it was a fun game to watch, though, when it comes down to it, right? Washington was a 2-point favorite, so they covered the spread. So good for Washington.
Washington. The one thing I want to say, this Falcons team is one that I want pieces in whenever they're playing. The defense isn't very good. The offense is moving a little bit now, it seems, with pieces like Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts. I want to start players against the Falcons, and it's getting to the point where I want to start these Falcons players as well in these games. I think the very first thing we need to talk about here, we need to address whether this is an anomaly. I'm sure his pricing is going to start reflecting it a little bit more on all of these on FanDuel. Cordaro Patterson with 32.1. Let's go over to FanDuel scoring. He had 32.1 fantasy points, 6 carries, 34 yards within 5 receptions, 82 receiving yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns in this game. So Mike Davis still did receive the bulk of the carries, but Patterson is the one yet again who comes out on top with the fantasy score. Is Patterson the running back to start in this Atlanta offense going forward? Is it not Mike Davis?
I think you have to start Cordaro Patterson at this point. The way they're using him, it makes the most sense. Mike Davis, even though he's getting the majority of the carries, hasn't hasn't necessarily converted them to touchdowns.
13 carries for 14 yards.
It's not good. That's not good. Cordaro Patterson has been fantastic. Didn't Mike Davis get a touchdown? Was I
It was a
imagining
receiving
that?
touchdown. Yeah.
Receiving. Okay. All right. That makes sense. But yeah, he hasn't really gotten the touchdowns, up until this point in the season. He got the one today. But I would rather have Cordaro Patterson. He's getting the touchdowns and he's getting the receiving works, PPR. It's gonna matter a lot more here.
Yeah, I'm starting Patterson over Davis at this point. I don't know what else there is to say. It hurts a little bit. It feels bad with where you drafted Davis, but if you've got Patterson, he's the back who's continuously producing. It's the way they're using him. And a running back getting 9.6 fantasy points with a touchdown is abysmal. He had a touchdown, 13 carries, and still only got 9.6 fantasy points. Man, I'm going to have a hard time trusting Mike Davis in his starting lineup.
You can't trust Mike Davis anymore. I mean, look at Wayne Gallman, got 6 attempts for 29 yards, much more efficient. He got 1 reception, but it's whatever. You can't trust Mike Davis in your starting lineup at all. And Cordaro Patterson's a guy you have to put in there.
Yep. One more thing on the Atlanta side of this game, guys, that I wanted to bring up. JL, you brought it up during the game. Kyle Pitts did see a red zone target while we were down there today. They want to start using him in that way, it seems like. I just wanted to give everyone who's holding out for Kyle Pitts a little vote of confidence. The breakout game, the big game where everyone goes, that's the Kyle Pitts we've been looking for, is coming. He's getting more and more involved. He's running routes. He's seeing the targets. He had 4 receptions for 50 yards today. It's going to happen
9 targets.
One of these. Yeah, with the way they're using him, it's going to happen one of these weeks. So I know it's been disappointing so far, but Kyle Pitts is due for an explosion game. It's coming. So if you want to trade for him season long, this might be your window. Go do it right now because he is going to have a big week one of these weeks. They're using him in a way that is just inevitable. On the Washington side of the ball, guys, Josh, you mentioned it earlier. Heineke looked pretty good.
He did.
Do you view this as an upgrade for McLaurin season long now? Are you happy about the Heineke starting at quarterback for Terry McLaurin?
I don't see how you could be upset about this. He's produced the last 2 weeks, 13 targets today, 6 receptions, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, McLaurin is locked and loaded. He's a start every week in in redraft leagues. Absolutely. No doubt in my mind.
Absolutely. And then, JL, I wanted to ask you about this one. So Antonio Gibson was hyped up as a superstar RB1 all offseason. This guy that was going to come in, handle a lot of the receiving work. And we saw it through the first couple of weeks. It looked like they were going to try to face him in more to the receiving game and face J.D. McKissic out. But the past couple of weeks, we've seen J.D. McKissic more and more involved in the receiving game. Like they're changing their mind on that. Are you worried about Antonio Gibson going forward?
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying it like week after week here, that you have to be cognizant of how they're using Antonio Gibson. Last week, we saw them start to use J.D. McKissic way more. And this week, he was used just as much as last week. He had 5 targets, 5 receptions, 44 yards, and a receiving touchdown.
That touchdown was sick, by the way. That was a sick touchdown.
Yeah, it was a great touchdown. And then he's getting half the amount of carries as Antonio Gibson. He got 7 carries for 15 yards. While Antonio Gibson's got 14 carries for 63 yards and a rushing touchdown. So I think this is another situation where you have a running back who's primarily being used in the rush game and another one who's primarily being used in the passing game, similar to that like Chubb Hunt dynamic.
I was a big proponent for Antonio Gibson taking that step this offseason, and part of that reasoning or analysis was that I really assumed J.D. McKissic would take a step back and they would put Antonio Gibson in on more of these third down passing situations, but it's looking like that may not be the case. It's just better for the Washington football team if McKissic is in on those cases, and he's showing us why. So you just have to adjust your expectations for Gibson going forward in my eyes. McKissic is going to continue being used in that way and going to continue vulturing those receptions, even though that is a skill set.
Though. Gibson's a very talented back, and he's going to have
so good.
Like he's still worth a start. He's still very good. Yeah, like you said, Simon, you just got to limit your expectations.
Yep. Also, we got Eddie in here. Yo. What's up, Eddie? Also, Eddie messaged me. He messaged me earlier about he was having trouble with his FanDuel entry. So if anyone from FanDuel is in here was watching, he was in there on Friday with us, got a free entry from you guys for guessing one exactly right. And I know he was having trouble with it. So we could get Eddie sorted out over there. Yeah. I know he's looking forward to playing that. NBA had a quick question for us, guys, before we move on to our next game. He sat James Conner on the bench. Arizona's trashing LA. He's sad about that. So to distract him from his bad James Conner benching, He wants to know what's our favorite football food of today. Josh,
Football
what was your
food
favorite
today?
favorite football food you ate today?
Oh no.
Josh is like, I didn't eat today.
I forgot to eat. No,
I didn't study for this quiz.
I literally had nothing good football oriented. Usually my one buddy comes over and he brings this dip that his mom always makes. He goes over every Sunday, he picks up the dip and he brings it over. It's so delicious. But today he didn't come over. I had a bagel sandwich. I think that's the best thing I can mention. And that is not a football food. That is the closest thing. I'm not going to lie to you guys.
Was it a sandwich on a bagel or was a bagel in the middle of a sandwich?
It was a bagel, 2 bagels, one each side with egg, cheese, bagel, and some sausage. Actually, I had
sausage on my bagel.
Well, I see Maria mentioned it, but mine is veggie tacos. She made us some right before the stream. They were delicious.
That's fantastic.
I had leftover pizza that I heated up in the oven. You can't go wrong with pizza. And I finally found a good New York style pizza place in San Antonio. So I was hyped about it. Guys, anything else from this game before we move on to our next game that we're talking about? We got a bunch to get through.
I just want to reiterate, buy low on the Falcons receiving options, Pitts and Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, especially Pitts. He had a couple just near misses today that would have completely changed the game.
Yep, I completely agree. Pitts is a guy this sounds weird, but I'm a little bit excited that he's had this slow start because I didn't draft him very much because his cost was too high. But now I think is the time where you can go trade for him. Albert wants to know any injury update on Logan Thomas. Have you guys seen any updated news on Logan Thomas?
No, last I've seen is that he just got ruled out. He had a hamstring issue. But yeah, I have not seen anything since then.
Yeah, me either.
Me neither. Kev said his best snack today was oatmeal. That sounds pretty good, Kev. And Eddie saying nachos, deep fried grilled chicken, taco, chili dogs, and chili.
Wow.
He just wanted to chill us up, Eddie.
You went hard.
Come on.
I'm jealous.
made these jabronis eat cold pizza and bagel sandwich.
It was from THB and Towson Hot Bagel.
That's pretty good.
Know what's up. You know
it's
what's
pretty
up.
good.
You know what's up.
And NBA said blueberry pie with banana and lots of juicy whipped cream. NBA, I was craving pie last night. My girlfriend made fun of me because she walked over and I quickly X'd out of the window on my phone and she was like, "What was that?" And I went over. It was Uber Eats and I had just searched the word pie at 10 p.m. It was all I wanted. NBA was pie. I'm so jealous right now. And Rolando says, "I think it's time to give up on Ayuk." We will talk a bit about Ayuk when we get to that 49ers game a little bit later. Right now, guys, we are talking about the Bears versus the Lions. Justin Fields' second start, and he looked better. Not fantastic, but a hell of a lot better than he did against the Browns last week. Josh, how do you feel about Justin Fields in fantasy going forward? Is he a guy that you could see yourself playing and depending on the matchup, or not at all for the foreseeable future?
I'm hands off until further notice. I'm not starting him next week. I don't want to put him in any lineups, no FanDuel lineups, no nothing. He's just not worth it at this point. He hasn't proved anything. He's a rookie that hasn't proved anything. This offense is fine. They scored 24 points against the Lions, which is fine. I'm hands off until further notice.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And then John Luke. So David Montgomery went down with an injury during this game. Do we have any updates on that? Do we know anything else about how that injury went?
I do not. Let me look it up real quick to see if there's been anything.
And real fast on Justin Fields, 3 attempts for 9 yards. What the heck is going on there? Why isn't he running the ball efficient? Like this guy, he was so hyped up as a runner. I know he can run. It's just it's not finding the running room, I guess, It's disappointing.
So regarding David Montgomery, it looks like he had some sort of hyperextension, and they're going to get an MRI on Monday to see what's the extent of it. Hyperextensions, if you don't know, it's like your knee if it goes the other way, basically. So it can be really bad. It can also be not so bad, which makes it, I guess, tricky to diagnose very quickly. So that hopefully that MRI gives us a little bit more information there.
Guys, we have a couple Pitts questions here real quick. Pitts trade questions that came up whenever we were talking about that. Tim wants to know, redraft Gronk for Pitts. Which side are you taking? Josh, I know you've said in the past Gronk, but
with the rib injury, as I don't know when he's going to be back. I mean, it sounds pretty significant, this injury, and it's going to limit him even if he does come back. I'd rather have Pitts at this point.
That's a switch for you. So the injury is significant enough, rib injuries for you enough to switch it for you.
He had a punctured lung, four cracked ribs. It's going to be a multiple week injury in my mind. And I don't know if he's going to be fully healthy, like I said, when he does come back. So it's Pitts.
Yeah. John Luke, are you going Pitts here as well?
Yeah, it's Pitts for me as well.
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. 2 weeks ago, it would have been Gronk for me, though. Casey wants to know, should I trade Nick Chubb and Kyle Pitts for Chris Carson and D-Hop in a PPR league?
Holy crap.
Josh, are you taking this trade?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think I'm willing to make this trade. Let's see. How is Seattle doing? How did Chris Carson? 13 attempts for 30 yards. He had a bad game while Alex Collins really took over. That does concern me. I'd rather have Nick Chubb far above Chris Carson, but D-Hop's so far ahead of Kyle Pitts. You have to have a tight end to be able to replace Kyle Pitts to make this trade.
I'm keeping the Nick Chubb and Kyle Pitts side. John Luke, what about you?
Yeah, I think this really depends if you have someone to fill in for Kyle Pitts, like Josh said. But I lean towards the side. I forget what it is now. He's took it away.
Nick Chubb and Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I would. Part of me would rather have Chubb and Pitts, but you know what? I'm gonna stay Chubb and Pitts on this one.
Yeah, D-Hop is a definite upgrade, but it's just not enough for me to downgrade from Chubb to Carson, and then, like you said, Josh, tight end is a hard position to replace.
I'm changing my mind. I'm going Chris Carson and DeAndre Hopkins because even though Chris Carson has not had a great, he didn't have a great game today. He hasn't been like out of this world fantastic. He's still seeing the attempts. He's getting a ton, 16, 13, 12, 13. That's weeks 1 through 4 in his rushing attempts, and I think that'll even out. He'll start to be more productive with it.
My only concern is Alex Collins getting 10 attempts. Alex Collins getting 10 attempts for 44 yards and a touchdown, two targets, two receptions. That would be my only concern about Chris Carson at this point. I think if he's the primary runner going forward, I have no worries.
Yep. Guys, on this game, though, the next player I wanted to talk about was Allen Robinson, and we've got a question in here about him. Charlie wants to know, do I trade away A-Rob or keep holding? You can't trade A-Rob right now. No one's going to trade for Allen Robinson at a value that he's worth. I think you have to keep holding. This offense will hopefully see better days this season, but I'm holding Allen Robinson. What about you guys?
Hold. Gotta hold.
Yeah, I feel like you have to hold. I mean, the first big break-off game that he has, I would probably try and start seeing if I could shop him around, though.
That's a good point, Joe. That's 100% a good point there. And Charlie wants to know, do you guys agree that if Edmonds got red zone work, he'd be an RB1? Yeah, but it's going to be James Conner. They're showing that time and time again. He's not going to get the red zone work, it seems like. Maybe occasionally, but yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind. He'd be like an Austin Eckler type if they were giving him all the work. So, yeah, I'd put him right there. But he's not.
Yeah, but he's not. Guys, on the Chicago side of the ball, we talked a bit about Allen Robinson. You got to hold David Montgomery. If he's playing, you got to keep on starting him. He has been phenomenal, and he's a player you can plug into your lineups. He's involved this week, not in the passing game at all, but he has been involved in the passing game. David Montgomery's a superstar. Are you guys interested at all in Williams if Montgomery is out? Do you think is he someone that you'd be excited to start, or just as a plug-in?
I think he'd be a solid backup. Yeah, but he also got hurt in this game. I don't know what the extent of it was. Yeah, but towards the end of the game, I believe he got hurt.
Okay. If Damian Williams is if David Montgomery's out and Damian Williams is healthy, I'm starting Damian Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. While the offense hasn't been great for the Bears, their rushing game has been pretty damn good. And Montgomery has found a lot of success in that offense so far this season from a fantasy perspective. And I expect that to continue. Guys, on the Lions side of the ball for this game, moving over the Detroit Lions, as we all expected.
Khalif Raymond.
Khalif Raymond. Number 1 overall score for the Lions today. 2 receiving touchdowns, 3 receptions, 46 receiving yards. Good thing all of us started him, put him in our lineups. We all had him in our FanDuel lineups. Everything was good to go, right?
Of course.
No, nobody had Khalif Raymond in their lineups today. Is this just a flash in the pan for Khalif Raymond, or is he someone you're putting in your lineup going forward?
He was really targeted last week, too, against the Ravens.
Right? I know.
He was hyper-targeted. Was it 10 targets last week and then 6 targets this week?
7.
Maybe Goff really likes him. Maybe Goff, I don't think the 2 touchdowns thing is sustainable, but he Yeah, if he keeps getting targeted this much, he'll definitely have opportunity to score more. But I don't know that he's going to be as reliable as we think.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing I don't have much to say about this Lions side of the ball here. There's two things that we probably should talk about. One, Williams got more carries than DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is still the running back to roster and play between these two guys in redraft formats, but in daily fantasy formats, Jamal Williams is a discount value play that any given week could be the better fantasy option. He is heavily involved in this offense, especially in the receiving game as well. It looks like this week he wasn't involved in the receiving game, 14 carries, but they are getting him involved heavily in this offense. They trust him. So Jamal Williams is a guy you can plug into your lineup any given week. I don't think he's just an emergency play. How do you guys feel about Jamal Williams?
I feel like we were in a season. He's going to be one of the best values at the running back position for sure. Like he's been consistently better than I think we all expected.
And then same thing, Charlie wanted to know about Woods. I'm going to completely.
He got a touchdown at the end, didn't he? Is this Robert Woods, right?
Yeah. Robert Woods. Yeah. He's just curious about Robert Woods over there. Today did not look promising. Yeah, it's been disappointing so far, but you can't trade Robert Woods right now unless he's part of like a package, but he's another one of those guys you just got to hold.
If you can go and sell the narrative, like he got the touchdown, be like, oh, he's on the upswing, then by all means go for it. But at this point, Stafford and him just don't really seem to have a rapport, and I would rather not wait if I can.
I'm with you guys.
I completely agree with you there, JL. As far as the receiving options go, outside of Raymond for the Lions, I think the consensus going into the season is someone has to catch the ball, and it's going to be TJ Hawkinson. And I just wanted to say I still think it's going to be TJ Hawkinson. He only had 4 receptions, 42 yards today. But when you watch him play, 9 targets, and he's a monster on the field when he gets the ball in his hands. Same thing as with Pitts. There's going to be more monster games. I think Hawk before this game was the number 3 tight end on the season. This is disappointing, but nothing to worry about. He's going to be fine. He got the 9 targets, like you said, Josh. John Luke, anything else about this game before we move on? Any fantasy relevant pieces you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't think so. I think we got to most of it here.
We hammered it.
The New York Jets' first win of the season against the Tennessee Titans. Zach Wilson's first NFL victory in this game. And I know all of us over here were quite excited about Corey Davis's game in this matchup. And the Jets' offense looked different this week in my mind. Like, it didn't just look like, oh, they had a good game. Like, things were clicking. I don't know if it was Jamison Crowder being back and they really missed him, getting that offense moving. Zach Wilson being a little more comfortable. The Titans' defense being abysmal. But the Jets' offense was moving pretty well this week. Are you guys interested in pieces in this Jets' offense going forward, or was this a bad Tennessee defense?
Michael Carter's interesting. 13 carries. He wasn't super efficient with it. 38 yards, but he got a touchdown. But he seems to be the main guy there. So I'm definitely interested in him going forward.
Yeah, Michael Carter, I think he has to be rostered at this point. The Jets, they look good at the end of the game. Like they really turned it on in the second half. They were looking a little bit more pathetic in the first half, but yeah, Zach Wilson started to turn it on, and Corey Davis had a fantastic game. What's he, the 7th overall wide receiver in a PPR league right now? So yeah, I mean, Corey Davis is startable. Jamison Crowder got 10 targets, 8 receptions, and was this his first game back, or was it last week?
This is his first week back.
1 touchdown, so you got to look out for Jamison Crowder as well.
That's what Jamison Crowder does. He gets 10 targets for 40 to 60 yards and 6 to 7 catches, and he's going to be totally fine. Like, this is near the ceiling of his weeks usually, but this is Jamison Crowder. He's not going to get the high value targets, but he's going to get peppered with them. He's a startable asset as well. He's not a guy that I'm throwing into lineups expecting like some huge boom. If I had to do that, it's Corey Davis on this offense, or honestly, even a Michael Carter. But Jamison Crowder is a steady player that you can start. I don't know how much there is to say on the Jets side of this ball. John Luke, anything else on the Jets side that you wanted to cover?
No, I mean, Crowder got more targets than Corey Davis, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I think those are the two guys that I'm going to be interested in potentially throwing into my lineups, but it's still the Jets. I don't, they looked good, but this was also just, it seemed like a weird game, like Josh was saying, the Jets just they didn't quite get it started very well. They picked it back up in the end. So it'll be interesting to see how Zach Wilson does going forward.
One thing they did cover was the spread. I mean, the Tennessee Titans were 5.5 point favorites going into this game. I'll tell you that much. Wow. I mean, they did a good job there.
Well done. Did a good job there. We got Vopsy in here with a question. They want to know, should they trade Kyler, Claypool, Tunyon, and Drake for Russell Wilson, TJ Hawkinson, and Odell Beckham Jr. in a 10-team full PPR?
Yeah, I'm doing this trade. I'm making this trade. I'm about this trade. Do it.
So you're taking the Russell Wilson, TJ Hawkinson, and Odell Beckham side of this?
I am. While I think Kyler is fantastic, this is a one quarterback league, I'm assuming, and Russell Wilson has looked just as good himself. Maybe not just as good. I'd still rather have Kyler, but there's not much drop off between Kyler and Russell Wilson for me. Claypool, I'd rather have Odell Beckham than Claypool, and I'd much rather have Hawkinson than Tunyon. And Drake's just kind of a throw in at this point. So yeah, I'm taking I'm taking this trade. I'm making this trade.
I agree with you. If this was super flex, give me the Kyler side, but I like Hawkinson better. I like Odell better. Drake's a throw in. You broke it down exactly how I would, Josh.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys.
Yes. And FanDuel said, can see the excitement of trade in Josh's eyes.
Say the word
his
trade,
eyes just
Josh,
lit up.
Yep.
JL, you mentioned it. This was a weird game, especially on the Tennessee side. I don't know how much we need to talk about on the Tennessee side here. Derrick Henry's a beast, but I don't know if you guys saw it. I don't see it very often, but Derrick Henry got blown up this game, just absolutely obliterated. I can't remember the last time I saw Derrick Henry get hit and gone like, ooh. Usually you're feeling bad for the person hitting him, but he should be fine. Derrick Henry's a beast. Anything else on this side of the ball? Josh Reynolds, 6 receptions, 59 yards on that side with AJ Brown and Julio Jones out. Ryan Tannehill with an average game. I'm not sure how much we can pull from this with the two highest receiving options out. It's just a weird game for Tennessee.
I think you summed it up, Simon.
Yep.
Yeah. Be on the lookout. AJ Brown and Julio Jones are coming back at some point. Better days ahead for this Tennessee offense, even though they scored 24 points against the Jets. Just a weird game for them with their top two receiving options both out. Up next, we have the Indianapolis Colts taking down the Jacoby Brissett-led Miami Dolphins in
Jacoby
Brissett. The Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett had he was 20 for 30, 199 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of them going to Devontae Parker, another to Mike Gesicki. Jalen Waddle left just standing by, watching in admiration. I know I was excited about starting Waddle this week. That was probably the only Dolphin player I was excited about starting. But Parker got involved with Brissett. Do you think maybe with Jacoby behind the wheel, we're seeing him have different preferences for receivers he prefers, or was this just Parker had the better game?
There's probably a difference in receivers he prefers. I mean, he seems to like the target Gesicki. I mean, Jalen Waddle was heavily targeted previously with Jacoby Brissett, so I'm not especially concerned there. I believe Will Fuller got hurt in this game. I think Devontae Parker, he had 10 targets, 4 receptions. He's someone to look at going forward.
And then I think the big thing to talk about in this game, though, JL, you said it earlier, you were glad you moved Myles Gaskin out of our starting running back slot in a couple leagues where we share teams. Malcolm Brown saw the bulk of the carries here. Myles Gaskin had like 2 carries this whole game, wasn't it? Like it was something preposterous.
No catches. No catches. No carries. No catches. No targets. Nothing. Yep. I mean, they just didn't put him out there, it seems like. I would love to see the snap splits on this. I don't have them available to me right now, but I would love to see. I want more information from the coach. Like, are they going away from him? What's going on here? Because Myles Gaskin,
2 attempts on 3 yards. That's ridiculous.
There's something weird going on because it's not like Malcolm Brown was like came out and had a hot hand. Know what I mean?
They didn't rush as much, in this game. Even he only had 8 carries, which just isn't a ton.
Right. Yeah.
They were down early, so but that seems to play in a Myles Gaskin skill set where you can catch his dump offs, get 10 yards and keep the ball moving, right?
Yeah.
I'm concerned. I'm like Josh said, waiting to see if there's something. There was an injury that we don't know about. The coaches come out, say he was banged up, but outside of that, how I'm viewing the situation is I don't care what format you're playing. Hands off the Miami running backs for the time being. because Malcolm Brown didn't do enough in this game to make me think, okay, he's the guy going forward. I don't know what they were doing with Myles Gaskin. I'm just completely hands off the Miami running backs for the time being.
Me too.
I have zero trust in Malcolm Brown after this game. Less than 3 yards a carry with the work he was given. It's not looking good over there on that side. Guys, on the Indianapolis side of the ball, the tight end, number 1 in Dynasty, Mo Alley-Cox with 2 receiving touchdowns in this game. Just kidding for everyone watching. He is not the number 1 Dynasty tight end. But 2 receiving touchdowns. Is this anything more than just a blip, a game? He had himself a game. Do you guys see any lasting analysis from this Mo Alley-Cox game?
No, it came on 3 receptions. 2 touchdowns on 3 receptions is an insane touchdown rate. There's no way that he could continue that. Yeah, there's no way that he will continue that. And touchdowns aren't really a sticky stat, so I'm not putting any stock into this.
No, you're not putting Mo Alley-Cox actually into your lineup. Just stop.
No, you're not. But other players that did show up for the Colts today, Jonathan Taylor had a pretty good game. 16 carries, 103 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. And Josh, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, finally, like Jonathan Taylor coming in and showing us why he was drafted the way he was. Why, not just in fantasy, but in the NFL as well. He looked like a monster out there today. It didn't change anything. I was starting him anyways. I'm starting him with full confidence going forward. Jonathan Taylor. What about you guys? Did this affect how you
fumbled twice? Nyheim Hines fumbled twice. So that could be significant. I mean, Jonathan Taylor got more targets, more receptions. 3 targets, 3 receptions, 11 yards. That's not much, but it could lead him to be just being on the field on 3rd down in those passing situations more.
I don't know why this made me laugh so much. NBA just asked him if he had a Gronk plushie. He wants to see what it looks like. I'm just imagining Tim with like a full-sized Gronk stuffed animal on his bed, and it's pretty beautiful. Tim, we'll work on getting you one of those. Zach Pascal, JL, I know he's your favorite wide receiver in the NFL. 4 receptions, 44 yards. Wasn't even the highest scoring receiver on this Colts team. I guess the bigger question is the Colts receiving options. What are we doing going forward? Michael Pittman had himself a big game last week, kind of under the radar this week. Do you have confidence in any of these receiving options rest of season next week?
Yeah, I think Michael Pittman will be targeted enough to have fantasy value. You got 6 receptions on 8 targets. He's the most targeted receiving option in this offense. He just didn't turn it into touchdowns. He had 6 receptions for 59 yards. And so, of course, the box score, his fantasy box score does not look very promising, but it's because Mo Alley-Cox pretty much stole all the receiving touchdowns in this game. So it's not really fair. He's like ridiculously huge.
And honestly, like Michael Pittman was targeted in the end zone a couple times. Michael Pittman is still worth a start every week. I don't think any other receiving option I'm out on going forward for the time.
I'm with you, Josh.
Yeah.
Anthony's saying JT's a must start. Pittman, a solid weekly flex.
Fully agree with that.
That sums it up.
You nailed it, Anthony. Thanks for doing the analysis for us. I appreciate it. That is the perfect way to say it in less words. Anything else from this game, guys, before we move on to our next game?
Nope.
Let's move on. Let's keep it moving to the most exciting game of the day. An absolute barn burner.
Oh, man.
14-7, the Cleveland Browns took down the Minnesota Vikings.
You might think that the Browns scored 2 touchdowns, but no. They they tied the game up 7, or it was 7-6, and they decided to go for 2 right at the beginning of the game. They're a little strange decision, hit 2 other field goals, and the Vikings just could not score. Neither of these teams' offenses look good at all, right?
Yeah, that was the first thing I wanted to bring up. Everyone was excited about OBJ this game, me included. I started him in a bunch of leagues, but you know what? Baker had a horrible game. He looked off. His throws were off. It was an absolute poop game, a poop your big boy pants game from Baker Mayfield. He's going to be fine. That was the big thing I wanted to say. There are better games ahead for Baker Mayfield. He's a good quarterback. He looked like garbage this game. Don't throw away your OBJ shares yet, but don't rush to start Baker Mayfield in this rush first offense either.
Play OBJ going forward. He was targeted so heavily in JL. Remember, I remember how angry you were at that Baker Mayfield throw where Odell Beckham was wide open.
It was more than one. Yeah, there's more than one where he just missed him. Like he's wide open and he just missed him on the throw. So it's frustrating as a fantasy manager to see that. But don't let it get to you. OBJ is looking fantastic. He's getting separation. And that's where we're going to see targets come from. Is these receivers who can get separation.
Yes, I love it.
Yep, completely agree with you, JL. You hit the nail on the head. It wasn't an OBJ problem this week. It was a Baker problem this week. And I don't think it's a problem where we have to go, he has a quarterback problem every week. It was just a bad game from his quarterback. Completely agree with you.
Is Kareem Hunt a better start than Nick Chubb?
No, but Kareem Hunt is a must start every week. Yeah, you have to start both of these running backs. I was preaching it all last offseason, all this offseason, and everyone said, oh, it can't happen again. You were there with me. But
and I was not there with you.
Josh was.
You were not there with
definitely
me.
Not with him.
I got called a Browns homer, but I'm telling you, my homerism makes me hate Browns players more than it makes me like them. It makes me draft fewer of them. I've been conditioned. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are must starts every single week. They are both top tier running backs. Kareem Hunt is involved in the passing game, but also pretty heavily in the run game. He had red zone carries today on the goal line. That's where his touchdown came from. These are running backs you have to start, and they want this to be a run-first offense. There's plenty of work for both of them. And honestly, on like a daily fantasy perspective, if it's a game where it's the lines about even, Kareem Hunt's probably the better value play. Throw him in there. He's going to be more involved in the receiving game. He's probably a little bit cheaper. I'm throwing Kareem Hunt into more DFS lineups than I am Nick Chubb, but I love both of these guys.
Yeah, I mean,
I love both.
Nick Chubb had 21 carries, Kareem Hunt 14 carries. That is really high compared to Malcolm Brown had 8 carries and Myles Gaskin had 2 carries. That's what you want to see.
Yeah. The Browns know how to run the ball.
The Browns know how to run the ball in jail. Now you know what to get your mom for Christmas. She wants a Gronk plushie as well. There you go.
I got
Christmas shopping. That's what you got to get your mom for Christmas. Outside of this rushing game, though, there's really not much to talk about on the offensive side for Cleveland.
Bench your mother.
Yeah, the tight ends are involved, but you never know which one's going to be the focal point, whether it's Njoku or Bryant or Hooper. You can't start any of them. In an emergency, maybe you could start Felton, but probably not. Like I'm just benching everybody except for Odell and the running backs here. That's Josh, you're 100% right. On the Minnesota side of this ball, for such a low-scoring game, Justin Jefferson did get his. I saw Ed in the chat saying Justin Jefferson getting consistent after a couple weeks. Are we getting some more consistency? Yes. How do you guys feel about Justin Jefferson going forward? It was a disappointing start to the season, but it looks like he picked it up a little bit.
I feel great.
We expected from him, right?
Yeah.
We're good. It
wasn't even that disappointing. Like his week 1 was a little disappointing, but from a fantasy perspective, but he's gotten a touchdown in every single game since then. That might fluctuate, right? Like, as we say, the touchdowns he's not always going to get a touchdown every game. But to me, he's the best receiving option in this offense.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Justin Jefferson's a must start every week.
Yep. And Adam Felin from that point as well. Adam Felin, right. you got to keep putting in your lineup. He only had 3 receptions this week, but again,
9 targets.
Great. I was going to say he looked great out on the field, and he was heavily targeted yet again. You're not benching Adam Felin. This was just a poor offensive game from the Minnesota Vikings. Anything else on this side, guys? Do you want to talk some KJ Osborne? Any Dalvin Cook worries?
Dalvin Cook got a little banged up, which did lead to a less involvement. Alexander Madison got 10 carries, but he didn't do much with that. Dalvin Cook, he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
He came back in the game.
Yeah,
he'll be good to go.
Not much else to say on that end over there. This game was fairly boring, not just even from like a Cleveland fan perspective, and then from a fantasy perspective, not too much for us to talk about for those options going forward. But up next, this was a lot higher scoring game. This one was more exciting to watch. We've got the Dallas Cowboys versus the Carolina Darnolds.
The
Carolina Darnolds are here
to
lose to the Cowboys. So the Cowboys ended up winning that game, but Sam Darnold had himself a day, 33.54 fantasy points. According to Yahoo, let's see what the FanDuel scoring was on this. 33.54, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 throwing touchdowns, 301 passing yards for Sam Darnold. I hope he started him against the Cowboys. And I was telling JL that I was so happy to see this because I aggressively started Sam Darnold this week against this Cowboys defense. And even outside of Sam Darnold, my biggest takeaway from this game has nothing to do with the Panthers. It has to do with starting your players against the Cowboys. Their defense even looked good. Diggs is out there making phenomenal plays, but these games are all just so high scoring. Start your quarterback, start your receivers against the Cowboys. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, Sam Darnold looked so good. He looked fast, man. He literally he looked quick.
RB1 Sim.
I
said to JL during
like this.
When he got his 5th rushing touchdown. I don't know if it's still the case after the rest of the games that happened.
On the season.
On the season.
No, I got you.
I don't know if it's still the case. Someone else can fact check, but FanDuel saying that's RB1 Sam Darnold to you. When he got that touchdown, he led the league in rushing touchdowns on the year. Number one,
still does.
Sam Darnold leads the league in rushing touchdowns with 5 rushing touchdowns. We didn't see that from him. Is this something we can just expect from his game going forward? They use him in the red zone to run? Because he doesn't strike me as that kind of player at all. But they've done it consistently.
Fast. He just looked like really fast. I didn't know Sam Darnold could run like this. I'm not expecting it going forward, but I think it's a little bit of an anomaly, but he looked fast, like I keep saying. So, yeah, it raises his floor significantly if they're analytic.
What this does is it confirms to me, like I needed any more evidence, that Adam Gase is a bad coach.
Yes. Dale, that's the nicest thing that's been said about Adam Gase in the last 24 hours, without a doubt, that he's a bad coach.
Without a doubt.
He's such a bad coach.
Yeah, Sam Darnold looked great, and DJ Moore looked like a monster out there. Sam Darnold had 2 passing touchdowns, and they both went to DJ Moore. Looked like the beast he is. Chuba Hubbard, fine. I mean, disappointing. He came in, he got the majority of the rushing work, but not much there. How do you guys feel about the Carolina rushing game without Christian McCaffrey? Are you starting Chuba Hubbard?
I've been saying this since the preseason, that their offensive line is terrible, that Chuba Hubbard was not going to be able to do the same stuff that CMC is able to do because that offensive line is so bad. Doesn't mean that he's not
CMC.
And he's not CMC. It's just the bottom line. And so really where he was gonna make his fantasy points here is going to be in the receiving game. And in this game, 2 receptions for 14 yards. That is not on 2 targets. So that's not promising. That's not what you want to see, because otherwise Chuba Hubbard's just going to have a hard time really getting past that line of scrimmage.
Mike Davis did the biggest disservice to fantasy managers ever by balling out last year when McCaffrey went down, because they gave us this idea that whoever gets plugged into this Carolina offense is going to step in and be an RB1, and that's just not the case. I agree with you, Jail. I'm not
should have been able to
Chuba
see
Hubbard.
that because they used him in the preseason that way. They gave him all of the opportunities in the preseason, and he wasn't able to make it happen. So the evidence is right there.
They discredit preseason if it doesn't support their narrative, and then credit it if it does, is how preseason is used. Josh, you look like you're contemplating something.
I'm still willing to start him. I mean, if Sam Darnold getting the 2 rushing touchdowns, they could go Chuba Hubbard's way. You know,
yes.
I'm absolutely, still willing to throw him in my lineup, but yeah, it's not Christian McCaffrey, not at all.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you don't start Chuba Hubbard, but you got to have your expectations, in check here. In check. And really what made Chuba Hubbard so interesting in the waiver wire this week is the opportunities that he's going to get. 13 carries is fantastic. I would love to see that. And hopefully he's going to have more efficient games there. And hopefully he gets used in the receiving game more.
Yeah, I completely agree. Guys, we have a question in here as well about Derrick Henry. Aaron Rodriguez wants to know, if I'm a Derrick Henry manager, should I worry about 12 targets to McNicholson? Nope. Nope. Derrick Henry's been a top 5 running back without being involved in the receiving game at all. And he's been more involved this year than in recent years. So I have zero concern about Nicholson getting 12 targets.
McNichols, by the way. Jeremy McNichols.
Derrick Henry got 33 carries.
I knew something sounded off.
And 2 catches himself. Yeah, Derrick Henry got 35 touches. Don't worry about Derrick Henry.
Yeah, my goodness.
Yeah, that's every the last week, player I would worry
3 carries. Are you kidding me? Every stinking week.
Then NBA wants to know, which defense do you like better? Eye test, Dallas or Carolina?
Trayvon Diggs looks good.
I was going to say, defense, take the defenses out of it. Diggs is a monster. He's unreal to watch on the field. Best defensive player definitely goes to the Cowboys with Diggs, but I don't know which one. I think I've had more wow moments from the Cowboys, but the Carolina unit's probably a little bit steadier than the Dallas Cowboys unit. But I think Dallas has that like big play effect on defense that they can have.
Yeah.
McNicholson Smithicky is the name of the player, actually, JL.
Exactly
you also mispronounced it.
My apologies.
It's McSmithicky. Guys, on the Dallas side of the ball, CD Lamb absolutely disappeared today. Are you worried about that going forward, or just a bad game?
Like, what? Where'd he go? Like, how'd he disappear like this? Seriously, though, this is disappointing. It's just the offense. Dallas got up a little bit. The offense was running the ball well. Dak got some rushing, solid rushing attempts in for himself. I'm still excited for CD Lamb going forward. The tight ends got the touchdowns, so I don't think that's going to be the case every week. So CD Lamb will be fine. I'm not worried, but it sucks to see. The last 2 weeks not very impressive from CD Lamb.
Yeah. Oh, it was there were low targets all around except to Dalton Schultz for some reason. Dalton Schultz had 6 receptions on 8 targets. Makes no sense, but
yeah, him and Blake Jarwin got a touchdown this week. It was like the week of forgotten Dallas tight ends. They were like, "Oh, we're still here, everybody. It's not just Cooper and
Cedric Wilson."
Cedric Wilson got one too, but he also only had 2 targets. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
CD Lamb's gonna be fine.
They'll use it just seems like the running, like Josh was saying, the running game was really working against the Panthers and the tight end game, I guess. So they just focused on those parts of their offense.
Yeah.
I think some of the touchdowns just fell a weird way. They fell to the tight ends. They're going to fall differently each week. If one of those falls Amari Cooper's way or something different, we're talking about this game a lot differently. But the offense looked great. It's fun. You want all the pieces of this that you can have. You want your CD Lambs. You want your Michael Gallups. You want your Ezekiel Elliott's. Hell, you want your Tony Pollards from week to week. So I'm excited about this Dallas
Tony
offense.
Pollards.
He's so electric.
NBA.
He really is. Like, I mean, like he didn't have a good fantasy game, but just the ball in this guy's hands, man.
I agree. NBA said if your last name is Diggs, you are a superstar in the NFL.
They are brothers.
Anthony's
so that makes sense.
True. Anthony's renaming his kid Diggs.
I think
Leone Diggs.
Make it happen, Anthony.
Leone Diggs. Okay, guys, let's move on to our next game. We've got the Houston Texans versus the Buffalo Bills in
what
this
a good
one.
game.
If it will
best game of the week. By far, best game of the week.
I just I've been watching parts of it on Red Zone, and then all of a sudden I looked at the score and I was like, when did it become like it was 39-0 because it was before they kicked it. I was like, what happened? But yeah, the Houston Texans absolutely pooped the bed here. Let's start with them.
FanDuel knew what they were doing, by the way. 18.5-point favorites by Buffalo.
Wow.
Oh man, dude.
Buffalo covered. Buffalo covered.
Yes,
I would have gone on the Texans side of that ball. What would you guys have 18.5?
I could never have taken Buffalo there, but I probably
never.
I'm hands off on that one, to be honest with you.
That's absolutely
but
insane.
I never could have taken Buffalo. Even though they look great. They've looked great. And on the Buffalo side of the ball, Stephon Diggs, not finally. Stephon Diggs is fine. I think just no touchdowns, 114 yards, 10 targets, 7 receptions. He's the wide receiver you want to start out of all these guys for sure.
Yep.
There's going to be other fantasy relevant options, no doubt in my mind. But Stephon Diggs is the most consistent, has the most upside. He's fun to play. Now with the running backs, it's the same thing we've seen all year. Zack Moss, Devin Singletary, Zack Moss, Devin Singletary. You're never going to know which one to start. 14 carries each, right? So Zack Moss has the touchdown upside, so I prefer him going forward over Devin.
That's what I was going to say, Josh. I think Zack Moss, the way he's used, is more likely to get in the end zone, so I'm starting Zack Moss. But, I mean, from a football perspective, there's no real difference. They're splitting them completely equally, as you guys said. Outside of that, Dawson Knox, guys, 2 receiving touchdowns would even take those away. 5 receptions, 37 yards, a decent line for a tight end game. PPR scoring, that's 8.7 points over there for Dawson Knox, even without the touchdowns. Is he a startable tight end week in, week out at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they always talk about the tight end landscape and how, tight ends are so unreliable. And through week 4, we got, let's see, and this half PPR, 6.10, 6.1, 8.7, 12.9, 18.2 fantasy points. That's pretty solid. I'm happy if my tight ends giving me back close to, on average, 10 to 12 fantasy points a game.
Yeah, I mean, and before this game, he was the number 6 tight end on the season in PPR scoring, or sorry, wait, that's standard. But he was the number.
He's the number 7
tight end
currently. I believe.
So he's already a top 10 tight end, and I feel like this was a good game from him. You can start him. You can put him in. And he's got this touchdown upside from Josh Allen in a highly effective Bills offense. This is a kind of player you can probably save some money on in a DFS format and take your shot where he's got multi-touchdown upside any given week, the way he's being used in that offense. I love Dawson Knox, especially in DFS.
Yeah, he's a great DFS play. Cheap, so much upside because of this offense. So much.
And I don't know what else we want to address on this, but the one thing I wanted to say before we move on, the Bills scored 40 points, and the number one fantasy score for the Bills was their defense. The Buffalo defense was the number one fantasy score for a team that scored 40 offensive points, and I just think that's hilarious. Like that's
4 interceptions for Davis Mills. I mean, yeah, that sums it up. 4 interceptions, no touchdowns, 87 yards for Davis Mills.
One fumble recovery, 2 sacks. So
the Bills defense is really good, guys. Really good. Really good.
The Houston, the Houston offense hasn't looked completely flat, even with Davis Mills. So the Bills defense is just phenomenal. Anthony wants to know what happened.
Are the Bills the best team in the league? I'm sorry. I want to get into Cole Beasley, but I think a lot of people are going to be saying that this week.
Maybe.
I bet you.
The lack of a super competent running game is the only thing holding them back a little bit in my mind, but they're up there. They're like top 3 for sure. Could be number 1, but if they had a solid, like a top tier or even like second tier running back, I think they'd easily be the best team in the league.
They've
Josh
had
or JL,
semi-easy schedule. I mean, not the easiest, but not bad.
Yeah.
JL, I think you should be the one answering Anthony's question. You have been the one who has been absolutely just spreading the word of the value that is Cole Beasley. And I still think he is a value and a guy that you can start, but are you worried about him after today's performance?
No, not at all. I mean, he got two targets, 2 receptions on 2 targets for 16 yards. That's unfortunate, but it was they ended the game 40-0. And week 2, like the closest that he had that type of performance so far this year was against Miami, where they won 35-0. So I think this is just a matter of game script and them not using him when they're up by that much, which is understandable.
Yeah, I completely agree. It seems like a game script thing entirely. Emmanuel Sanders, though, on the Buffalo side as well. He had another good game, 5 receptions, 74 yards, 10.6 fantasy points over there. Is Emmanuel Sanders someone you can start every week?
You can, especially in DFS. He's a touchdown, threat on every play. They're targeting him deep.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm completely fine throwing Emmanuel Sanders out there, but he's got a low floor still, in my opinion.
Guys, I want to get to this question right away because I know it's crunch time making start-sit decisions. Kevin said, should I start Antonio Brown tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Smash. If you want to tell us, Kevin, who you're like trying to decide between Antonio Brown or someone, we could maybe give you a little bit more accurate, but Antonio Brown is a start.
And Albert said Bills versus Chiefs next Sunday night.
I was about to say it.
That's fun.
Yes, we're going to find out if the Bills possibly are the best team in the NFL. If they can handily beat the Chiefs.
Wait, are the Chiefs the best team in the NFL, though? Is that really the barometer right now?
I'm just saying, if they can handily beat the Chiefs, that says a lot, right?
You're right.
That does say a lot.
You're right.
Yeah.
We had another question over here, tight end. Logan Thomas hurt. Should I pick up Knox, Gesicki, Schultz, or Goddard?
Ooh.
Yes.
You got some good you got some good options. Not Schultz.
I'm
out of those 4.
I'm leaning. Knox has more upside than Gesicki in my mind, but Gesicki's a little bit more involved.
I was going to say,
go Gesicki while Brissett's there.
As much as I dislike Gesicki, I think the way he's been used in that offense the past 2 weeks doesn't seem fluky to me. He's getting heavily targeted. I'm probably going Gesicki. Yeah, that's where I'm going. But you got some good options up there. Goddard's probably a second for me, though, and then Knox and then Schultz. JL?
I like Schultz, how much they're targeting Schultz. So that makes it interesting. But his touchdown rate is definitely a little high for my liking. I might go Dawson Knox here.
Dawson Knox. And it looks like Jordan's agreeing with you. Jordan said Knox or Gesicki. Anthony said Goddard. I said Gesicki or Goddard, and Josh said Goddard or Knox. So I hope that was helpful.
The only thing that worries me about
C-Fran
Goddard is
Emmanuel.
Ertz being there. That they might use him more.
Yeah. Jay has a question for us. First, Jay in here saying, wait a minute, someone is missing. We are missing our man Jay tonight, but he's got a question for us as well. I need Godwin to get less than 8 points. What are my chances?
Low.
Sorry, Jay. You lost.
Very low.
Yeah, that's not looking good, Jay. I'm not looking good. Sorry.
But I will say the Patriots are experts at taking away the best option for the opposing team. If they determine that is Godwin,
they might shut him down.
They could shut him down. So there's a possibility.
You know what?
What if what if they shut down Antonio Brown?
There's no way they're going to decide that he's him. He's the guy they need to shut down. It's they're like, okay, if we're going to let anyone like Tom Brady can beat us up, but Antonio Brown, he played for us for 1 week. No way.
They're spiteful.
I bet it's going to be Mike Evans. I bet it's not going to be Godwin using the slot that they try to shut down. They're going to try to shut down the big-bodied Mike Evans. We'll see how that plays out. In my mind, that's how it ends up going. Big booty Mike Evans getting shut down by Billy B and the Patriots.
Big booty Billy B.
I'm hoping not. I need a big game for Mike Evans tonight, but it doesn't. We'll see what happens. Guys, up next, I don't know how much more there was to get from the Buffalo-Houston game. 40-0 is a weird game script for any team, whether the winning team or the losing team. We're going to get some weird narratives out of there. But up next, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs, 42-30 against the Eagles. It was a weird game for a while there. The Eagles were winning for a little bit. It looked close, but the Chiefs ended up pulling away, and Tyreek Hill finally had that big game. He's had good games, but he had that kind of week-winning type of week that we've been waiting for, with 42.1 fantasy points for Tyreek Hill, 11 receptions, 186 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. And guys, Tyreek Hill was discounted a little bit this week. His price went down after the performances we've had. So I imagine Tyreek Hill was a part of a lot of successful lineups this week. He absolutely dominated after some disappointing weeks by his standards. And because of that, Patrick Mahomes did well as well. On the Kansas City side of the ball, outside of those two players, John Luke, what stood out to you about this offense?
Clyde Edwards-Helaire is probably the next biggest piece in this offense that stood out. People were discounting him, his usage in the first couple weeks after that disappointing season. I think they carried that over and they saw 2 weeks of it and were like, all right, I'm out on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And, we were saying after those 2 weeks, stay with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. His usage is there. He's going to start being more efficient. 14 carries, 102 yards, along with 2 receptions for 12 yards and a receiving touchdown. That's fantastic. It's exactly what we're expecting out of Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yep. Josh?
I'm all about, I'm all about Clyde Edwards-Helaire too. Jail summed it up. Keep starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's going to keep producing.
No worries about Williams getting 10 carries, 2 catches in there. It's still Clyde Edwards-Helaire backfield in your mind. Yes. CEH has the show.
Absolutely. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was always in there in their most important downs, and he was getting work, like a lot of third down carries. That red zone touchdown where it was like a little flick to him. I love those plays. The Chiefs run those all the time. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be a good fantasy running back this season.
Yep. Darrell Williams did vulture a touchdown, and you're going to have that from week to week.
On the Chiefs side, Travis Kelce had a down game, but he's still Travis Kelce. You're going to start him every week. He's a great tight end. It's okay. And then, guys, back-to-back weeks, Fortson has a touchdown, but he's not involved. Any interest in Fortson as a flyer going forward?
Who?
Joe Fortson.
Jody
Fortson's son. Hickey.
Is it Jody?
It's Jody. 1 target, 1 reception, 2 yards, 1 touchdown. No, don't worry about Jody.
That's that line I like to see.
His name is Joseph. How the hell is his name Jody?
I'm seeing Jody, man.
Is it like a nickname?
Yeah, Jody Force.
Jody, the nickname for Joe Fortson. Yeah, don't start Joe Fortson, but he's gotten a touchdown the past 2 weeks. I just wanted to bring that up. Guys, on the Philadelphia side of the ball, Kenneth Gainwell with the big game, 17.9 fantasy points, but it came off the back of 1 rushing touchdown and then mostly through the receiving work. Miles Sanders with another disappointing week here. Between those 2 running backs, are you still starting Sanders over Gainwell going forward?
Have to, right?
Yeah. He's getting a majority of the rushing work in this offense. You know, they were down for a lot of this game. You're going against Kansas City. Their defense wasn't really holding up. I could see them just moving away from the running game, and they were giving the passing work to Kenneth Gainwell. He got 6 receptions compared to Miles Sanders, 3 receptions. So I think they're just going to involve him more in the receiving game than Miles Sanders here.
Is he startable week to week?
I think so. I think he's a flex play week to week for sure.
Josh, how do you feel about Gainwell?
He's definitely a flex play week to week. I'd rather start Miles Sanders, but if this becomes a trend, I'm willing to adjust. Kenneth Gainwell is the more valuable fantasy running back throughout the season. I mean, Miles Sanders only 7 attempts, 13 yards. He's not even being efficient. They need to get this running game going. You know, I don't know what they're doing.
That was there were 2 things I was going to say, Josh. One, you hit on it. I don't know what they're doing with the running game here. They have talented running backs and they're just not running the ball. I know they were down, but this is 2 weeks in a row with like really, really questionable amounts of running in the offense. Right? It's baffling, the amount that they're using Sanders and Gainwell. Hopefully that ticks up in the near weeks. But the other thing I wanted to say is I am watching this Gainwell-Sanders situation closely. For the time being, I'm still starting Sanders over Gainwell. But like you said, Josh, you got to be willing to adapt. Gainwell was drafted by the Eagles to come in for a reason. And if he's looking better on the field, there is a very real chance that they shift this offense to be Gainwell-centric instead of Sanders-centric in the running game some point this season. I'm not calling for it. I'm just saying watch for it. Watch these games, see how Gainwell's being used, because that switch could be made. Just like people are talking about with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, the same thing could happen here in Philadelphia with Gainwell.
That Javonte Williams run. I know we're gonna get into it, but I'm sorry, I got flashbacks. I'm a Ravens fan, so it sucked seeing, but like I'm a Javonte Williams fan at the same time. So I was like, oh, he's good.
It was so good. He was carrying like 8 people. And Pang's Pick said took the combined might of Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin to fight off Tyreek Hill. Well done, sir. Well done, Davis.
Nice job. And Maria saying, Jay, you are missed on the show. Absolutely, Jay. We miss you so much. Guys, we're moving on to our next game. And I know Maria was excited about this one. Jay probably is too. The return of Saquon Barkley in this one. We finally got him back. Guys, I know I've said it before.
Vintage Saquon play. You know, that reception? Oh, man. It was beautiful.
It was beautiful. Are you expecting more of this going forward from Saquon? Was this his welcome back party, or was this just a good game from him?
I think his welcome back party was last week. Yeah, you know, I think that we're going to keep getting Saquon Barkley. That's what I'd hope. It would be weird if we didn't.
I agree. I see people talking about him saying he's not the same running back. I think that was all put to rest this week. He looks like the same guy.
13 carries for 52 yards is not great. I will mention that, but he's so super involved in the passing game that he can score a touchdown on any play. I love Saquon Barkley. The offense worries. The offensive line, the offense not being efficient does worry me, but he's such a good fantasy player. He's just a good football player.
He is.
Yeah, not too much to say about Saquon Barkley. You're starting him. You're putting him in lineups. Saquon Barkley's the man. The receiving game is what we need to talk about here with the Giants. If you're taking a shot on with Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton out, a couple other receivers stepped up today. John Ross had himself a game, 3 receptions, 77 yards, and a touchdown. Kenny Golladay with 6 receptions, 116 yards, and Kadarius Toney had 6 receptions for 78 yards. All 3 of these receivers pretty involved in this game. How do you guys see this breaking down going forward? Was Ross just a plug-in because of the injuries? Is Golladay or Toney the guy to roster going forward?
I mean, I think you have to roster Golladay. He should have been rostered and drafted, and so if he's somehow on your waiver wire, pick him up. But otherwise, no. I think this is a product of just Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton being out.
Yeah, I'm with Jay on this one.
You're not seeing any extended value for the likes of John Ross and Kadarius Toney once Shepard and Slayton come back?
More Kadarius Toney than John Ross. But John Ross, I mean, I guess he could score a long touchdown any play. He's really fast, and that's where I'm going to end my compliments on John Ross. Kadarius Toney was a first-round pick that the Giants are going to want to get involved. So maybe this is a sign of things to come. 10 targets, 6 receptions, 78 yards.
John Ross was a first-round pick as well, Josh.
Yeah, like 7 years ago.
Wasn't he like the 9th overall pick or something?
Yeah,
in this draft? Like John Ross was like a top 10 pick. Yeah,
the Bengals like 5 years ago, actually, if we're being honest.
Tim has a question for us. What do you recommend doing if 75% of your starters get injured and your opponent scores their season high every time they play you?
Ooh.
It sounds
Have you
like
contacted any like have you contacted a witch or something to like put an X on your opponent?
I'm sure there's other parts of your life that give you joy, so just focus on those things.
You could sell your soul.
Sell your soul.
That usually works.
Yeah, just call up the devil. You're running out of options here, Tim, if that's happening every week. You got to take drastic measures. Guys, on the New Orleans side of this ball, Taysom Hill was the top scoring quarterback for the Saints in this game. He had 2 completed passes, 9 yards, 28 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns.
That one touchdown was sick. It was so awesome.
36.4 QB rating on the game for Taysom Hill with his 2
one interception.
Yeah. I don't even care how he looked throwing the ball because that rushing touchdown was insane. Like absolutely insane. He should have been tackled 18 times on that play and somehow he forced his way into the end zone. He looked unreal. But take Taysom Hill out of it. I don't know if you can start him any given week. He's not involved. He's coming in for these gadget plays. It worked in his favor this week. The question I have for you guys, Jameis Winston, with how they're using Taysom Hill in this offense coming in on these goal line plays, is Jameis Winston even startable?
No,
he hasn't for weeks. I feel like we've been talking about it. He's not startable. Not in fantasy at all. No.
I don't even care the format.
Hill, but it's just he's not getting the pass attempts either when it comes down to it. Alvin Kamara is maybe the only startable asset on this entire team.
Yeah, 26 rushing, 26 carries for Alvin Kamara, which is definitely exciting to see. 120 yards, no touchdowns.
So I think he has 0.
Which is super weird.
What?
I think he has 0 rushing touchdowns on the season, if I'm not mistaken.
And he had like 6 in one game at the end of last year.
He needs to call up Sam Darnold and get some lessons on scoring.
Yeah, man. How do you run?
What Alvin Kamara needs to do.
He
needs to call him up.
It makes it a little bit easier when the defense is like, how do we beat the Saints? Okay. Alvin Kamara is their only like really person we're worried about. So let's just stop him, and then they can't do anything else. So
man, Marquez Callaway really fleeced all of us this offseason, didn't
all of us?
He like, I mean, like as
all of us.
I meant as a community, like as an industry, everyone was like hyped about him, and then he just didn't do it. He's doing nothing out there. I think I have him on one of 17 teams.
Way overhyped. Yeah. I mean, a
preseason game, one big preseason game means nothing. It means nothing.
I get the excitement, though. With Jameis Winston slinging the ball, the expectations were probably a more pass-happy offense. Michael Thomas down. They wanted a piece of it, but it's not working that way. The offense is not looking how we projected for the Saints. Guys, but we are moving on to the Seahawks versus 49ers game.
Ooh-wee.
And we've already had some people commenting about this game in the chat, bringing up one player in particular. Our boy Deebo Samuel stepped up. Before we praise him, I want to ask, is it time to just fully give up on Brandon Ayuk? Are you dropping him? Is he a guy you're ever plugging into a lineup? Like if you're throwing together your lineup for the weekend slate, is Brandon Ayuk like a cheaper option for a long touchdown you're throwing in there? Nope.
Not until we can like have some sort of predictable usage, like know when he's going to get used and when he's not. At this point, I feel like it's complete nonsense. Like you just have there's no sort of rhyme or reason to how Shanahan is using him.
I'm not ready to drop him yet. Trey Lance, he came into this game. Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. If Trey Lance starts next week, I just want to see how it goes. I want to see what this offense looks like with Trey Lance. Does he target Brandon Ayuk more? Does more happen for Ayuk? I know Deebo went off with Trey Lance. So if you can hold out for 1 week, is he droppable? He is in certain leagues, in 10-man leagues, I guess so. We'll see when we get to the waiver wire show.
I'm completely with Josh. A player of that talent, and the fact that he was used somewhat more last game, like you just don't want to drop that type of potential because you don't know. We don't know after 4 weeks what is the trend, how are they gonna use him normally, or even later on in the season. And the QB situation there doesn't make it any better. It makes it worse for us or better is not the right term. It doesn't make it any clearer for us in terms of like how Ayuk is going to do.
Who would you guys rather roster? Brandon Ayuk or Emmanuel Sanders?
Ayuk.
I hate that question. Ayuk.
Sanders seems a bit more predictable.
In many leagues, it's just like I don't feel comfortable starting Emmanuel Sanders still. So they feel like they're higher. Yeah, it feels like they're both like upside plays sitting on my bench, and I'm just like I'm willing to just wait for Ayuk and hope and pray, even though he's not doing anything on the field.
The upside is there; it's just not being realized at the moment.
Yeah.
What would you
guys
Simon?
For this? What would I do? Emmanuel Sanders or Brandon Ayuk? I'm with Josh here. I'm with Josh here. If I had to start one next week, it's Emmanuel Sanders, but I am not starting either of them in any league. So I'm probably putting Ayuk on my bench and seeing what the future holds for him. I like the potential upside for him a little bit more.
That's a good point, Simon. If you have to start one, it's definitely Emmanuel Sanders at this point. So maybe that makes your decision for you. If you have to start one of these guys, it's Emmanuel Sanders.
And Anthony said you can't drop Ayuk. You just have to cry. 100%, Anthony. Just, at Sunday nights, you shed a couple tears after Sunday night football's over. We all do it, right? Everyone's on the same page. You're good post-Sunday night football cry?
Albert said he thinks Kamara has one rushing touchdown. He doesn't. He doesn't on the season. He has 2 receiving touchdowns, but no rushing touchdowns. It's wild.
That's why it sucks to see him getting no targets this week. No receptions, no passing game work. Like, that's how he's going to make his fantasy value, and it sucks to see. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the Saints are thinking.
Tim said Ayuk, more like I poop. Good one, Tim.
Got him.
You got him. Got him. Guys, real quick on the Seahawks side of the ball, one main thing we need to talk about is Alex Collins getting 10 carries in this game and the touchdown over Chris Carson. Any concerns for Chris Carson going forward?
I'm still starting Chris Carson. Alex Collins looked good in his own right, but I think Chris Carson's still the guy to be had here. It was an Alex Collins week this week, but I don't expect that going forward.
Yeah, it's a wait and see type of situation. Chris Carson is, I think, going to be the one no matter what here. But we might see Alex Collins eat into his usage, so you have to keep an eye on it.
Don't love to see it. Don't love to see it.
Yes.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's not good, but it's not bad enough to make me not start Chris Carson. It does limit his upside, though, 100%. Okay, guys, our next game we've got here is the Arizona Cardinals versus Los Angeles Rams in this one. 37-20 final score. Cardinals winning it. And JL, you said
I don't think anyone saw this exactly coming, though, right? The Cardinals blowing out the Rams in LA. Whew.
I didn't see the score being 37-20. Absolutely not. But Joe, you've said it week in and week out, and I said it this week. Kyler Murray's good at football. He's so good at football. He might be my favorite player to watch in the NFL right now is Kyler Murray. I just have so much fun watching him play football. But from a fantasy perspective, we had some questions in here earlier about the running game, Chase Edmonds and James Conner. Josh, why don't you break down for me a little bit what we saw today and what that means for them going forward?
What we saw today is what we are going to see going forward, I believe. Let me just start out by saying this is a high-powered offense. They are going to be in the league. I mean, they were playing one of the best defenses in the league this week, and they scored 37 points. We're going to see a lot of these high-scoring games where they're blowing out teams, and that's going to lead to James Conner getting carries. A lot of goal line work. He's going to be inefficient week in and week out. Like we've already seen, Chase Edmonds is probably the more talented running back. But when it comes down to getting touchdowns, James Conner is that guy. Both of these guys are worth a start. Chase Edmonds as a surefire running back 2 low end. I'm willing to throw him out there every week. James Conner, I'm willing to throw out as a flex. I don't love starting him though.
I have to start James Conner in a lot of leagues, Josh. I went RB heavy or 0 RB in a lot of redraft leagues this year. So James Conner's been that starting guy for me in a lot of those leagues. And you know what? I'm fine with it because what we saw today, Josh, you said it exactly right. This is a high-powered offense. They're going to have a lot of goal line work available, and James Conner's the guy getting it. You can start Edmonds and Conner week in and week out. I'm fine with starting both of them. And Conner is that cheap, high-upside play. He could fall into the end zone 3 times in a week if that's how the game script rolls out. Tim said Aaron Darnold chasing Kyler Murray was like a dog chasing a squirrel. It was like a Great Dane chasing a squirrel. Aaron Donald's a massive man out there. That's a really funny visual. Anything else on this Arizona side of the ball that you guys want to talk about? Anything about the receiving options?
AJ Green, he had another great game. He might be a more startable fantasy asset than I actually even thought he could be. He should be owned. He should be.
Because I have no idea how many teams I've got AJ Green on the back of my bench where he was my last round pick, just like thinking this Arizona offense is going to be something. Somebody has to catch the ball. I agree with you, Josh. He has to be rostered in redraft, and in DFS, he's a guy you can plug in cheap each week. And this is such a high-powered offense. He could get a touchdown, no problem.
But I do want to say real fast, we every week it's a different guy, right? DeAndre Hopkins is consistent, and then there's like AJ Green. He had a good week last week too, and then the Rondell Moore, Christian Kirks. It's going to be like this all year.
Yeah. That's, when you're playing in these tournaments, you got to take your shots. What I'm saying is these Arizona receivers are good players to take a shot on.
Yes.
AJ Green is a guy you can take a shot on with higher upside because of the offense that he's in. And we're seeing it. Look at him showing up this week a little bit. Outside of that, on the Los Angeles Rams side of the ball, Van Jefferson showed up again this week. Van Jefferson looking pretty good 2 weeks in a row. Is this a blip on your guys' radar? Are you not worried about Van Jefferson, or do you think he's worth rostering?
I mean, 6 targets in each of the last 2 weeks is pretty encouraging. I definitely love to see that. I think he's someone you want to have on your team, and you can probably flex in during those bye weeks, or if you need an emergency start. I don't know that he's super consistent, but his offense is good, and he seems to be a part of it. So I want him on my fantasy team if that's the case.
Yep, Cooper Kupp back down to earth. Looked
14
like
targets
this week.
though. 14 targets. 14 targets, 5 catches. That's crazy. He started him every week.
Yeah. Coop, it was a bad game for him, but you're continuing to start him. Guys, we were running low on time. We still got 2 games to get through real quick, so we're just going to hit the highlights of these last 2 games real quick and then jump out of this in time for everyone to catch some Sunday night football. We got a good game tonight. Josh, we're going to hit you with this one first. Ravens. Hit us with the highlights. What do we need to know from a fantasy perspective about the Baltimore Ravens after this game against the Broncos?
Marquis Brown's an every week start. You knew Lamar Jackson was every week start. The running game in Baltimore is going to be weird. Latavius Murray looks like the guy right now. Taysom Williams was a healthy scratch. Mark Andrews every week start. So it's Marquis Brown, Mark Andrews, and Lamar Jackson on the Ravens side of the ball. On the Broncos side of the ball, it kind of sucked to see. Noah Fant had a great game. Otherwise, the receiving options aren't great. The running game wasn't great. It sucks. It's great to see as a Ravens fan. It sucks to see from fantasy perspective. Teddy Bridgewater got hurt though, and I think that's a big reason why.
Yep, and Gordon and Williams are splitting carries pretty evenly. I don't know when one of those backs is going to emerge. I would love for one of them to take over as the lead back, but for the time being, we're going to keep seeing these splits. It's going to be weird for both of them. And Josh, you hit on, I think, the biggest point. Marquise Brown is a must start week in, week out at this point. He's no longer a guy that you plug in matchup dependent. And the reason I say that is this Denver defense, I know they hadn't played the best competition so far, but they're one of the best defensive units in the league. And this Baltimore offense, including Marquise Brown, did a pretty good job against them. This Baltimore offense is for real, going up against a real defense like this. And Marquise Brown's the real deal as well, it looks like. Jail, anything to add about this game real quick?
No, I mean, I think it sucks to see Taysom Williams not getting used. I was definitely wrong on that going forward, but keep an eye as we progress to see, because Lev Bell got 4 carries, 11 yards, which
that's the reason Taysom Williams was actually not active. That John Harbaugh said they just wanted to get Le'Veon Bell a chance.
So it's unfortunate. I think that definitely is a hit to Taysom Williams' value, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, the last game we're going to talk about that went down today, the Green Bay Packers versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. On this one, the Packers ended up winning it 27-17. And Randall Cobb had himself a game, showing up 5 receptions, 69 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Is this a player that we can think about flexing each week? I know Aaron Rodgers has liked Randall Cobb in the past. This is a player that I know he was happy about getting back. Is there any future for Randall Cobb from a fantasy perspective, or was this just a game where he caught the touchdowns? The touchdowns went his way.
I think it's a little fluky, personally. A little fluky. He'll have big weeks going forward, I'm sure, but he's not going to be consistent.
Yeah, I agree with Josh.
Is he your number 2?
On the Packers, the number 2 receiver?
On the Packers, number 2 receiver out of all the receivers on the Packers.
Sure. Right now he is, but it's like Devontae Adams and then everyone else,
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been that way.
Joe, you agree?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we called that whenever he got signed that is likely going to be the wide receiver too, but it's not predictable enough yet. He might be someone you could throw in as an emergency start and hope that it's a Randall Cobb game. But at this point, I'm not super excited about him.
Deontay Johnson looked good.
I agree. I
agree
with you guys. And Rick said Deontay Johnson was his favorite player of the day. Won him 2K. Hell,
that's awesome.
Yeah, Ricky. But and with that being said, Deontay Johnson had 9 catches for 92 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown.
14 targets. A lot of targets today for the big name people.
Yeah, keep starting Deontay Johnson. Keep starting Najee Harris. It was nice to see another good game from him. Are you starting any of the other receiving options for the Steelers? Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool when he comes back. Are those guys that you're plugging into any lineups? Taking a flyer on?
Claypool, yes.
Claypool, yes.
Juju got 8 targets, by the way, too.
Yeah, Juju getting 8 targets. I'm happy starting him too. He just wasn't converting them to catches. So
yeah, Juju. It's a wait and see a little bit with Juju though. And in PPR league, sure, but he's not getting big plays. That sucks. As a Juju fantasy manager.
Anthony said that graph on the right looks like a disappointed face. Which graph?
Yeah, that keep going down right there. Right, that one?
Does it look set? I don't know. You got a creative imagination there, Anthony, if you're saying that looks like a disappointed face. We got to get Anthony taking a Rorschach test. Guys, anything else from this game?
Nah.
Are we looking forward to Sunday Night Football at this point?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Let's go. Let's go. Tampa Bay all day, baby. The game started at 0-0. Not much has happened yet.
Okay, Let's take score predictions right before we jump off. Josh, final score.
The final score is going to be Tampa Bay 29, New England 20.
29-20. John Luke, what do you think?
I'm gonna say 35-20.
Tampa Bay?
All right.
Yeah.
And I am going to say 24-13. Tampa Bay. Right. That's my final score prediction. Next week, the ultimate loser has to, I don't know, be an eight. They're just stupid on stream. We'll just call them stupid and make fun of them.
Yeah.
And Maria said FanDuel chanted that they were cheering Brady in the stadium. You know, that actually makes me, that's pretty cool. Quarterback going into an away stadium and having them cheer his name. That's a pretty awesome moment, guys. So everyone make sure you're enjoying that game tonight. If you are watching this and you enjoyed this stream, follow FanDuel on all their social channels right now. They're on YouTube at FanDuel, Twitch at FanDuel, Twitter at FanDuel, TikTok at FanDuel. There's a bunch of awesome content coming out through all of their channels. They're easy to find everywhere. So make sure you go and follow them on all of their socials and hit that like button on this video to let us know that you had fun hanging out with us today. Guys, I think that's it for us this Sunday evening. Anything else you want to throw out there before we jump off?
Trading makes fantasy fun.
Trading does make fantasy fun. That's it, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday and have a great week. We will see you next Sunday night. Adios, everybody.
Bye.
Okay, love you guys.